Hello, CCI community. Happy Wednesday to you. I am super excited to be finally back after 4 months of traveling abroad. We had Nicaragua, Guatemala, Peru, and most recently wrapped up at the Crypto Invest Summit in LA. And that's really what I want to talk to you guys about today is what I found out at the Crypto Invest Summit in LA. It really affirmed a lot of the things that I had been talking about in this group already, some things that have been on my mind, the trends that I had been seeing. So at the Crypto Invest Summit, there was a mega theme for the entire thing. Essentially, this theme was security tokens. So if you're not familiar with security tokens yet, I really want to break this down for you guys so that we can understand it. I want to spend some time here so we can understand what are security tokens, what are the implications, what does this mean, and how can we get invested so that we can best leverage ourselves. Just as Ethereum, Bitcoin, all these cryptocurrencies grew, we're going to see a massive emergence in security tokens. This is an industry that has over $100 trillion worth of assets disposable to be, or not disposable, but ready to be infused into the market. Compare that right now to a $450 billion market cap for utility tokens, which is around $500 billion. We have so much potential room to the upside with this. I'm really excited to share with you guys what are security tokens, and we'll just have a nice discussion about this. So first, to start talking about security tokens, what I want to break down first are what we currently have in the industry, which are payment coins and utility tokens. So first, we're all familiar with payment coins. These are things like Bitcoin, Nano, Litecoin, Dash. Their sole purpose is a store of value that can be exchanged like a peer-to-peer exchangeable currency. They have no other utility but to be exchanged as value. That's a payment coin. The second one is a utility token. What are utility tokens? They are tokens that are meant to be used on a particular platform for a particular use. So if we look at Ethereum, we have, Ether. What is the use of Ethereum? Well, it's a token that allows for the operation of smart contracts. Or if we look at Golem, what is the GNT token? It's a token that allows you to purchase computing power to run your devices. So utility tokens are essentially these things that fuel an ecosystem or an application. So they have a use. Utility tokens, there's been a lot of trouble with different token sales and ICOs, kind of with their wording and trying to get legally compliant with utility tokens, because legally they can't constitute an investment. They can't, essentially they have to not be an investment and have an exclusive use on a platform. Otherwise it constitutes as a security, and regulators come after them. So, all right, now this is a good time to dive into security tokens. So first of all, as I mentioned, we have really loose regulations happening right now. On the utility token side, these ICOs are really trying different ways to sidestep regulations, to try to get around them. And this is turned into the $600 million scam that we saw performed by Arise Bank. We've seen a lot of scams happen in the utility token scene. I think it's the stat, over 75% of ICOs in the year 2017 have already failed. So that's a staggering amount. And if there's just a little bit of due diligence on these, a little bit of parameters or framework that people had to set in place, then the fail rate would very potentially be a lot lower. So this is what security tokens or regulators are trying to implement. The goal of the regulator is to protect the retail investor, and that's it. And they're just trying to make sure that everything's legally compliant, everything is kosher. They're doing the due diligence for us. So even though a lot of people, including myself, think, regulations, centralization, governments, these things suck, they do serve their place in certain instances. As cryptocurrency, blockchain, distributed ledger technology become more adapted into the fabric of our world, we're going to need to see regulations. It's just the nature of the beast. We're going to need to see how countries evolve with this. So without any further ado, that was a lot of preamble on security tokens, but essentially, what are security tokens and what will they do? Security tokens will allow for the tokenization of real estate, stocks, bonds, assets, dividends. Essentially anything that has potential for a future profit is a security token. So real estate, this is already an industry that's well north of $200 trillion combined. I think the commercial real estate market's around 50 trillion. And so what would real estate on the blockchain even look like? Like, why would you want a token? If anyone's familiar with Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, you know Kevin O'Leary, the bald guy who's just into money, money, money. And what he did is he actually is tokenizing one of his buildings. So he put up 1/3 of his hotel. It's a massive hotel, and it's a $400 million security token raise. So what that means is if you purchase one of these tokens, you not only are invested in the building itself, and if it increases in value, your token increases in value, but you're also eligible to receive dividends. And that is a big difference between security tokens and utility tokens. Utility tokens, you cannot receive dividends. And there's a whole other conversation on proof of work and proof of stake, because when utility tokens are on proof of stake, if you're staking, then you're receiving a dividend. So that's a whole other conversation altogether that I won't dive into too much, but transitioning to proof of stake with utility tokens could constitute them as security tokens and make them have to get regulated or else be shut out of certain particular countries. So in addition to those industries that I mentioned before, stocks, bonds, assets, dividends, that is massive. This is like our entire physical world can be tokenized. And why would we tokenize it? Well, because we can essentially have it infinitely divisible. Everyone, you don't have to invest $100,000 into real estate anymore. You can invest $10 if you wanted to. So this is just a massive thing. In addition to these industries, what we're going to also be able to see is really cool new emerging things that I'm particularly excited for. If we look at the music industry right now, let's say there's an artist. He's a new artist, but you love him. You love his music. You love what he does. And he's like, I'm going to make an album, guys, but I need some instruments. I need recording time. I need studio space. I need let's say $10, $20, $30,000 all in. I need to master the thing too. I don't know how much it costs, but let's say 50 grand all in. So if you're like, I like this guy, I think he's going to do amazing, but I don't want to the easiest way is to tokenize that album as a security token. So you invest, let's say $1,000 into it. If he's doing a $50,000 raise, you now own, that would be 2% of all future profits that album would then accrue. So, we can do that for musicians. We can do that for movies. We can do that for artists. We can do that for absolutely any. We could even do it for people. And this is a whole new thing. But if you're launching yourself onto some platform where you're a public figure, you can tokenize yourself. We're already seeing this on a few platforms where people can start investing into people where, you give them $100, and the better they do, then the better that your finances do as well. It's not kind of done as a security token yet. It's still kind of in that gray area of utility token, but we're going to be seeing that soon. Okay, so that was a lot really fast. Security tokens allow us to invest in anything with future profit. This is massive. The industry that we're tapping into currently is just applications, payments. These are new emerging things. What the world already has, the global economy, is hundreds of trillions of dollars that are potentially available to be tokenized. So the question is, but why would they tokenize? It's working. Real estate's working fine. The stock market's working fine. Everything's working fine. Why would I do this? So there's two big reasons that I want to go into, and then I want to read a little excerpt by Anthony Pompliano. This guy wrote an excellent write-up on security tokens. So the first one that I believe is the biggest thing is liquidity. It's an absolute no-brainer. So when you look at real estate, if you're trying to buy and sell your house, what is the liquidity on that? You'd be lucky to sell it in a month or 2 months. The liquidity is absolutely atrocious. And because the liquidity is so low, you're willing to drop your price by $20, $30, $40, $50,000 on your house. So there's a margin. I think it was said liquidity can account on average for a 20 to 30% discount. So when there's low liquidity, you can lose 20 to 30% just because, and this isn't just in real estate, but everything else as well, that you're losing a lot of your capital because there's not liquidity to buy and sell. So if we have in real estate, rather than having to buy and sell this $400,000 or $500,000 asset all in one chunk, if you co-own this house, if it's tokenized, or even if it's a commercial property, you can simply buy and sell your shares of, let's say it's $1,000 or $2,000 worth of this thing on, this is more on the rental side I'm talking, not so much ownership, but you can sell this, and not just in a local market like we can with real estate. In real estate, you can go into Craigslist or whatever the comparable thing is in your country, and you're just marketing to like a super niche demographic. It's not only people in your city, but people who want to live in that area. So the demographic is infinitely small. So this liquidity is not only just liquid because it's now tradable on a global exchange. Actually, that is the point. It's traded on a global exchange. We're not looking at a neighborhood anymore. We are looking at the entire world. So liquidity is just off the charts. So this is massive. We're going to see a huge increase in liquidity. So when we have a lot of these illiquid assets like real estate, or let's just go with real estate for right now. As we move that more liquid, we're going to see that 20 to 30% gap narrow down, and that is the incentive for it to be tokenized. It's because we want a better rate of return on our capital. So it's a no-brainer. All right. Second thing that a lot of panelists talk at the Crypto Invest Summit in LA was the difference between the cost to tokenize versus running an IPO. It's drastically different. The cost to run an IPO can run you around 10 to 12% is what a lot of these guys said they had experience with. So if you think about that, if you're running a $100 million IPO, it costs you $10 to $12 million to launch this thing. Tokenization, would cost a fraction of that, a tenth of that. So it's just, if you're looking to launch the tokenization of whether it's real estate or your company or like even your car, which is happening now on certain platforms, it costs a lot less to do. I'm just looking at some notes here that I wrote. Okay, so yeah, now those are the two things that I was really excited about, is liquidity and the cost to tokenize is drastically cheaper. So a lot of these upcoming companies or ventures that are going to IPO, it makes way more sense for them to tokenize. So now I'm just gonna start reading out what Anthony Pompliano wrote in his little blog here. So the first thing is lower fees. Many fees associated with financial transactions are derived from payments owed to middlemen, like bankers. So that makes sense. Security tokens remove the need for most bankers, which reduces fees, and smart contracts may one day decrease the reliance on lawyers as well. So we're cutting out a lot of middlemen, which is reducing the fee. We're not having to do legal paperwork. The management of these securities is all baked in to the smart contract. Second one, faster deal execution. The more people involved in a deal, the longer it usually takes to execute. When security tokens remove middlemen from investment transactions, they enable accelerated timelines for issuers to successfully offer their security. Additionally, immediate trade settlement on a secondary market for security tokens will become an attractive advantage for investors and issuers as well. So we are going to be able to see not just the removal of middlemen helping the fees get lower, but the quickness of the execution is going to get a lot quicker as well. Even just something so simple as a bank wire transfer, you use that middleman and you're already looking at a 4 to 5 day wait in working business days. So when we remove middlemen, we get cheaper, we get faster. Something that I'm just going to start paraphrasing now. He also touches on free market exposure, like I mentioned before. Now we're just not going to a niche demographic, whether it's your neighborhood or even a country on certain stock markets, but we are now open to a global community. This global community is essentially anyone that has an internet connection and is in line with their nation's laws and regulations. So it's massive. And his second point is larger investor base. And that ties into free market exposure, global economy. So this is huge. This is absolutely huge. Security tokens are really changing the way that this multiple $100 of trillion industry is going to be able to operate in our world. So obviously, there could be some roadblocks for security tokens. The biggest one that I've been reading about that I understand and that a lot of these panelists touched upon for roadblocks is that technology evolves quickly, but regulation does not. So putting in place the correct framework for all of these securities across all of these nations, it's a pretty big job and it could take a whole lot of time. So we're going to need to wait to see regulations catch up. That being said, we're already seeing security token platforms. We're already seeing security tokens being launched. Things are already being set in motion. So things are moving, but we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves just believing that tomorrow everything's going to change. With that being said, still though, things are getting set in motion in 2018. We already have the understanding of what cryptocurrency is, of how this whole blockchain thing works. And the guys who are starting to build on security tokens, these are the guys who've been in the industry, since like the early days of Bitcoin, and they've just been riding, creating. And for the last little while, it's been a little bit stagnant in the past 2 years for their creation mode. So now to be able to have this new thing, securities token, this is a new emerging asset class. This is exciting for them. They want to jump into this and start working this to aid our global financial situation. Okay, so a few questions. Can security tokens and utility tokens coexist? They can definitely coexist. They are actually symbiotic. This is because they serve two different functions altogether. As we touched upon before, utility tokens are meant for a purpose on a platform, and security tokens are more for an investment asset. And we all know that a lot of us in utility token land are using it as an investment vehicle, but that is not by law how it should be done. So with security tokens, this is what will be allowed, and we'll be able to tokenize really, really large assets. Okay, so we've kind of gone over what are security tokens. We've gone over the difference between utility tokens, the difference between payment coins. Why are security tokens going to be absolutely massive? What are the benefits? What is the potential? And we've covered these things, and all signs lead to green and a massive bull market for security tokens. So now that we have this information, and I really urge you to continue doing some research, look into it yourself. And this is probably a good time to say everything I have said and will be saying is not financial advice. I'm just a guy who's super excited about cryptocurrency and is really happy to add value with this community. So with that being said, let's get into it. So what platforms are there? I'm going to just give an overview of a few of them. So essentially the two that I'll talk about are Securitize and Polymath. So these are the two: Securitize, Polymath. Polymath right now is tradable on exchanges, and in my opinion, the market cap is insanely low for the potential. That right now in my portfolio is my Grand Slam pick. What they do is, let's compare it to Ethereum. So we have Ethereum, and then let's say we have a application like Golem. So Ethereum is the platform that can host Golem. It is what Golem runs on, yada, yada, yada. That is what Polymath and Securitize are doing for security tokens. However, additionally, they're helping them tokenize. So, Ethereum is not helping. They're just providing a platform. They have like the code. You can do whatever you want with it. But Polymath and Securitize, they actually use third-party. Actually, I'll just speak for Polymath. I'm not sure how Securitize runs it. But Polymath, for example, would use a network of third parties that work together to help an issuer launch a security token. And this, again, is at a price dramatically cheaper than doing an IPO. So for Securitize, it's the same thing. Their exact definition is Securitize is a turnkey white label solution for the tokenizations of securities issued by funds, companies, and other entities. Securitize manages the possessing of the solicited investors from login to capital received, as well as the issuance and management of the security token throughout the lifetime of the asset. So both of these platforms, Securitize and Polymath, are the turnkey solutions, pardon me again, to being able to issue these tokens. And the way that I like to invest, and this is not investment advice, but I much rather invest in the platforms than the individual use cases themselves. So for example, like Spice is, you could call it a utility. It's a VC fund that was built on Securitize. However, would I want to invest in Spice? It's one of the first ones, so that's pretty attractive to me. But what's more attractive is to invest in Securitize and Polymath. And this is because these are the guys that are issuing the tokens. They're doing a lot of the workload. If you're investing in something like, let's say, Golem, to compare it to Spice, you're really banking that Golem is going to work. But if you're to bank on Ethereum, your chances of success are much better. Last time I checked, the top 44 cryptocurrencies on CoinMarketCap were actually applications built on Ethereum. So that makes me pretty confident that Ethereum is going to do well. and let's scaling and all that is a whole nother conversation. I'm not going to get into that, but just on that fact alone, that a lot of these, I guess you could say, utilities are built on Ethereum. It gives Ethereum a very large value. And the same is true with these security token platforms. Securitize, Polymath, they are issuing security tokens, and they're actually helping them to do so. And they're actually generating revenue from it as well, which cannot be said about Ethereum. Again, I'm not sure if Securitize is doing it via third party, but for example, Polymath would do it. They have like a team of lawyers that are third party. They'd have a team of like experts on this and experts on that. So that's that side of the coin. Securitize, Polymath, I quite enjoy the potential there. So something that is relevant though is Polymath, funnily enough, is, even though it's a security token, and security tokens currently cannot be traded anywhere. You can't trade it on Bittrex because Bittrex doesn't want to get in trouble, so they don't list anything that constitutes a security, which is why they delisted a bunch of coins, including Rise, not too long ago. So we need new exchanges that are compliant legally with government regulations. And so what is that exchange? And that is T0. T0 is the security token exchange to give these tokens, these security tokens, liquidity. So that means that Polymath and T0 are not competitors. Neither are Securitize and T0, but rather they are in symbiosis, similar to Ethereum and Binance, for example. And so Securitize, I do not believe, is partnered with T0 at this point in time. However, Polymath certainly is. And my reasoning that I don't have as much information as I would like on Securitize, I'm not invested yet. I'm still doing some research. Actually, within the next week or so, I think we're going to be able to get one of the guys from Securitize on here to come talk. We'll have a little roundtable fireside chat. I'm only just sharing from my level of knowledge, and I'm sure there's a few mistakes in here, so don't take everything I say with a grain of salt, because I take everything I read with a grain of salt. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I'm just trying to relay as best I can. So we have Polymath, we have Securitize. These are the issuers. We have T0. This is the exchange, just like Binance is, and T0 would be the exchange. Currently, the only one that I know of that is actually able to trade security tokens. And then we have Spice, for example. That is a VC fund that's tokenized as a security token legally. So that is it for me, honestly. Security tokens, I can't stress them enough. I really would like to continue this conversation about security tokens. This is what I'm the most passionate about right now. I really like to see what the upcoming movement is in the crypto space, and security tokens is certainly it. So anyways, hope you guys have a great day. If you have any questions, throw them down in the comments. If I know the answer, I'll answer. If not, let's look forward to one of the guys from the Securitize team coming in and giving a little more concrete insight and expertise than I can. All right, guys, have a great day. See ya.